Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to speak on the local government borrowing bill. It's good to be speaking on a piece of legislation that has so much support across the Parliament. Can I acknowledge the members of the Local Government Environment Select Committee, particularly the Chair, Chris Oakenville, who's done an outstanding job in chairing this piece of legislation through the committee. Look, the purpose of this bill is actually about improving financial management within local government. And when you look around the world and you see what's happening, I think it's really important that this Parliament is recognising that we're passing a bill that is designed to improve the management of ratepayers' funds across New Zealand. And obviously a major purpose of this bill is to set up a new agency that will enable collective borrowing across local government in New Zealand. I think it was Ms Louisa Upston who raised the point that there are different borrowing needs right across the country, and I think the Minister mentioned that there are 35 local authorities who have signed up to this bill, so it's good to see that it has a lot of support. I think we need to also acknowledge why at this time it's so important. We know that there are many people on fixed incomes, and for some of those people, if there are rates rises, that really hurts them. And so I think it's really important that this Parliament, as I say, takes a moment to acknowledge that we are doing everything that we can to ensure either we are freeing up greater funds for services in local government, or we're enabling local authorities to not have to spend so much borrowing so that we actually reduce the chance of rates rises. I think it is significant to acknowledge that there is over 25 million projected to be saved from this legislation. And we also need to acknowledge that this idea came from the Jobs Summit, and that it is voluntary. So local authorities can choose to borrow independently, or they can choose to use this piece of legislation. Look, I really want to touch on the Auckland Council situation, because as members know in this House, we, throughout this term, engaged in a major reform of local government within Auckland. And I think it's very important to acknowledge that we now have a wonderful situation in Auckland where we have one mayor and one council who are proceeding to make some pretty big changes across our city. That's across public transport, it's right within the spatial plan, and it's very important that this legislation today that we're passing will give them the flexibility, given that they have now 30 billion in assets and they are dealing with billions of dollars in rates, to actually have much more flexibility in terms of their borrowing needs. I think it's also important to acknowledge that there were significant changes made in the Select Committee, particularly around council-controlled trading organisations, and just in ensuring that there is some financial certainty around CCTOs that may be disestablished, to ensure that investors have that certainty that transactions will be conducted. Mr Speaker, as I said before, I'm very pleased to support a bill that has so much support across the Parliament, that is focused on ensuring that we save ratepayers money, that gives councils greater flexibility in terms of financial management, and very importantly gives the Auckland Council the ability to better manage its finances, given that it is such a large organisation, and it will enable Aucklanders to free up, I think the figure that I've seen is potentially $10 million that could be spent in local government services or ensuring that we keep rates down. I commend this bill to the House.
Speaker.
David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.